It is with a heavy heart that I join you live today in celebration of the life of an actor who touched the world. I'm Nico, your weekend update correspondent with Comic Book Invest. This is Comic Book Strategic Investment. I'd like to welcome my friend Bill Flanagan to the podcast. We're going to have a number of guests tonight. Matt Nelson and CGC graciously stepped aside so that we could celebrate the life of a fallen hero who died from cancer yesterday on Jack Kirby's birthday, the creator of the character he embodied on the silver screen on Jackie Robinson Day, one of the incredible portrayals that he immortalized in film. Bill, I want to thank you from the Comic Book Invest family for what you and your wife have done. I reached out to you today because your wife's an anesthesiologist, asking for her advice about how to generate awareness and who we should make donations to, as those of us are already acutely aware. Chadwick Boseman died from colorectal cancer. He had suffered for about 4 years in silence. I know that your wife's intimately familiar with cancer, you yourself being a cancer survivor.
Right.
So
years.
Melissa kindly created a GoFundMe. That's on comicbookinvest.com now. Can you tell our live audience about the conversation we had when you called me to exclaim the joy in your heart that your son had declared that Black Panther was his favorite superhero?
Oh my, that's still pretty fresh. That was absolutely his favorite. Still is one of his favorites. I'd say probably his favorite. He's got the costume. He's got a mask. He loves the guy. It was right after the movie. The portrayal, I think, helped. Any comic book we read, that's his go-to on who would win.
He likes to play the who could beat Black Panther game.
Absolutely.
And Black Panther always wins.
Right. I think Doctor Strange has given him quite a run recently. But
how old's your son?
He's 8.
And he wasn't born when you were initially diagnosed?
No, he came after. I started with testicular cancer. It went on for a couple years. We went through radiation and some surgeries. I came back 4 years later, was passing through my lymphatic system. So we took out 3 more chains of lymph nodes. Then we finally went ahead and went with the chemotherapy. And when I went through chemotherapy was actually when I started using medical marijuana simultaneously. And
now, for those who don't know you, they should be aware that you're an attorney.
Yes.
And at the time you were in the House of Delegates for the state of West Virginia?
I joined the House of Delegates 1 month after my chemo finished.
You were appointed by the governor of the state of West Virginia?
That's correct.
Okay. With a cancer diagnosis.
Right. I had a cancer diagnosis, but something really kind of changed. I think my daughter was watching the news and she kept listening to me complain about the things that were occurring in our governmental systems. And she said, stop yelling and go do something about it. So I decided to get into politics. And
now, a lot of people can't understand, Bill, how someone could keep a cancer diagnosis private.
I have no idea how he was able to do that, quite honestly. And the reason I say that is because my family needed more support probably than I did, because I think it weighed harder on them. It's rough enough on the patient. Chemotherapy is no joke. I mean, it just, you can't read, you can't. I thought I was going to have a 4 or 5 month vacation. I was going to play video games. My fingers quit working. I mean, I couldn't control the PlayStation controller. I mean, it was like everything kind of gummed up. Your feet start hurting. That's rough on the patient, but your families has to sit there and watch you go through this. And I don't know how she could have done it without getting help from outside of our home. That's a strong family to be able to do that, I think.
Yeah, we saw a lot of people in the media pointing fingers, suggesting that he was on drugs when pictures leaked demonstrating the profound weight loss that he suffered near the end of his life. Now people know what was really going on, that he was fighting for his life. And I think we're all reminded how important it is to be kind to one another, to let people know how much you care about them. And
always take the opportunity to tell your loved ones you love them. Absolutely.
Yeah. I have asked a number of friends from the comic book invest community to join us tonight. I'd like to have some of them join us now. How are you guys?
Hey, how are you?
Hey, gentlemen.
Hello.
Yeah.
We got
Speaking of loved ones.
There we go. What's up, little buddy? Hi.
That's the important thing right there. And
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think Bill, and we got Marco here too. I think Bill here said it the best when he said, love your loved ones. Tell them, let them know you love them. Ooh, shit's rough.
Yeah, Brian, you're the loved one of a cancer survivor.
I am. My brother was diagnosed with bone cancer. Oh God, I think it's been 3 years ago now. He had a rare form of bone cancer, osteosarcoma, and he had a 9-inch tumor in his femur that had broke its way through the femur, breaking his femur. That's how he figured out he had cancer. He had a really bad pain in his thigh. He had actually fallen while he was hiking and thought that was the pain, and it just wasn't going away. And he went to go get it checked out, and they did an x-ray, and within a day they had him at the Mayo. And one of the things one of the things my brother said is that he is happy that he doesn't remember most of it because he was so out of it. And he feels bad for us. And to keep that quiet and not have that love shine on you, that must have been rough. And his family was there. I mean, don't get me wrong, you don't keep that stuff from your family, but it means a lot when more people know and they let you know. One of the best things that helped from my brother was his friends, my friends that knew him growing up and all that stuff would come and visit him every day. Every day he had somebody there, whether he was awake or not. He had somebody stopping by, checking on him, giving him lunch, doing something, saying hello, trying to keep his mood up. And when you're trying to keep it quiet, I couldn't imagine how hard that is. That's rough.
Yeah, now the CBSI extended family reached out with a helping hand, right? Yeah. So what happened?
So this is one of the reasons why I rep CBSI so hard. The night it was Christmas. It was a couple weeks before Christmas when we found out, and I had a shipment of books heading out to Trey Kenyon, and Trey didn't get my shipment of books. And he called me and he said, "Hey man, just wanted to let you know, you said you were sending some books out, and I just wanted to let you know, we haven't gotten them yet." And I said, "Yeah, man, I'm sorry. I'm going through some shit." And he said, "Well, what's going on?" And I let him know. And immediately he said, "Okay, let me give me a couple minutes." And he sent me a text, and he said, "Hey, if we can help," because one of the things that I said to him, I said I had just purchased some of the Batman trades from the New 52 run to go. I was taking to my brother to let him read while he was, when my brother was getting chemo, it wasn't. And Bill, you will understand this. Some people, when they go for chemo, and we've all been touched by cancer. If we haven't, dealt with it in our lives personally, we've known somebody that's had it. We've lost all loved ones that have had it. But one of the things is that you got to keep your mind off of stuff. And my brother would read, these comic books in chemo and this and that. And so I told Trey, "Hey, I just picked him up some books." And he said, "Well, what's wrong?" And I said, "Well, he just got diagnosed with cancer. He's got bone cancer." And within 20 minutes, I get a text, "Hey, I've gathered up a bunch of guys in CBSI, and we're going to send a box to you full of trades." And within 2 days, I got a box. It must have been this big, probably 30 trades in it. Some of these guys here sent trades. Some of the guys that you see on FlipSide, every single one of them sent trades. That wasn't the best of it. The best of it is, a week later, 2 days later, Trey sent me a message. This was Christmas Eve, I believe. On Christmas Eve, he sent me a message and he said, "Hey, we're going to do something. We wanted to help your brother out." And my brother had just got a GoFundMe started. And so CBSI set up a raffle where people would give away books for raffles. And this was back when, again, New 52 was hotter than you could believe. And somebody had, and I won't mention names, because I don't know if they want to be known who they are, but multiple people put out books. But I remember somebody had, one of the things that blew me away is that Batman #1 RRP variant was like a $1,500 to $2,000 book, $1,500 to $2,000 book. And somebody had put it up for the raffle. And within 2 days after, I said this was on Christmas Eve, 2 days later, my brother had $3,500 in his account. Now, remember, there's people out there that aren't able to, sometimes they aren't able to pay medical bills. And my brother was in that situation. My brother had just started a job and he wasn't there long enough to get, medical. And he had to, all this stuff happened. And so not only did that money help pay for medical bills, the same thing that Bill was talking about, what saved my brother's life was our Rick Simpson oil, which is a form of medical marijuana. And we were able to purchase that. And it 100% saved my brother's life off of the donations and the help of others. Many people helped my brother out. And I think that's the important thing right here. We all know the sense of community. We've all talked about it to each other on personal levels, how important it is. And maybe this is something that we can help to make the community better by talking about it. Now, I know we wanted to spend a couple days and, a day and just let everybody just deal with it because we all heard it last night and it just was so quick. But, if we can talk about it and get some help and help some people in need, like I was helped, my family has helped, Bill's family, I'm sure, had people that reached out to him and helped him. Everybody in that situation has people that help them. And, it's also our way to say thank you to those people and tell those stories. So that's my personal story. It's rough, man. Whew. So, but thank you guys for coming on. We appreciate it. I don't know what to say other than the fact that I think that this is a thing that has hit us 2 times now. And this is like a multiple hit. Not only are we losing somebody that we all kind of love, but the impact that film made on multiple communities is life changing, and it's going to affect a lot of things. And I don't know, maybe he thought to himself that his legacy was something very important, and he didn't want people to look at, when they thought of Black Panther and that film, he wanted people to think about the power of it, the power of a black superhero and Wakanda and what it could mean.
Well, I mean, part of it. So, my dad had GBM, and when I was in my 20s, obviously that's a stage 4 one. So, unfortunately, that's not one that you come back from. But I mean, hey, look, and part of his thing too was, people would, after he passed away, say like, "Oh man, I didn't even know," or like, it broke away, or something like that. And I was young at the time, so I was 21. You guys can imagine what you're doing when you're 21. It's nothing usually good or anything like that. But when you think back on it, you kind of think like they don't really, as far as my dad was, and I think probably he was the same way. Like they don't want. We had our family around him. Obviously, we're doing all that type of good stuff. But like, they're not thinking about their legacy. But they're not thinking like we don't want people to, like kind of Brian said, we don't want them to think of what they've done in the past or come over and poo-poo it or do this. Or I mean, there's a lot of times where he would, we'd have to drive him places and either an accident would happen because eventually he had a stroke or other stuff would happen. And he would just be like, okay, we're not going to do it today. Take us back. Cause you could tell he was getting too weak to do it or whatever. He didn't want to show up in front of people and look like it wasn't like how they remembered him. Cause he was a big dude. He was like 6'3", like 290, not a small man. Right. So he was known for being big the whole time when his entire life, he was just a big personality too. So I probably feel it's the same way with Chadwick, where like, you do. I mean, there's a lot of people. My kids love it. My son loves being Black Panther, and the Black Panther he knows is the cartoon one and that one. Like that's who is Black Panther. You know what I mean? And he was, he was obviously, that Jackie movie was really great. I mean, I think everybody loves that movie too. He did a great job, and he's not thinking about himself, but he's kind of, a lot of times when these people, obviously everybody, I don't know, a lot of people I guess have had people who've gone through cancer or passed away from it. When you see it, it's not, a lot of times, especially when they're going through their treatments and all, it's not about them. It's really about, they care about, like my dad really would always ask how my mom was doing, like he was asking how my other brothers were doing. He was never asking about himself through the whole thing. And every time something would go wrong, he had a, so, with how it goes, you go through surgery, they try to remove parts of the tumor or whatever. And they did that. And then, but they back then, maybe the bedside manner probably isn't the nicest of all time. So they kind of told you right from the get what's going to happen. And, which is tough. It's tough for your wife to probably hear. It's tough if you have somebody in the house with, one of your family members to hear, but it is what it is. So you try every hope, I know you guys with the oils that worked for you. Obviously, my family is pretty religious, so we did all the religious type things. And a couple of other treatments we tried to at the time. We were doing everything you could for it. We knew it was a very slim chance, and obviously was what was. But one of the things was a surgery, and they took out a tumor. And after that, probably like within a month, we were in the kitchen just talking, and he had a stroke. Which you learn a lot of things when somebody has a stroke like that. Like, you always think to they're going to choke on their tongue. They're not. So don't, because they'll bite your finger off. Yeah. Which they were like, I was like, I'm on the phone with 911. They're like, get your fucking hand. Excuse my language. Sorry. Get your finger out of your mouth. He's going to bite it off. So like, just a little tip right there. But yeah, I mean, then after times like that, like you see it, but like, even when he did that, I mean, he's still, there's times where like, I could tell stories and they're personal to me and they're good. Like, like one time we couldn't make it back from the chemo treatment. He had to go to the bathroom. So we stopped behind a real rich person's house and broke down the gate. And they got some fertilizer, bro. Like, hey, that's how it's going to go. You know what I mean? So like, I mean, not all the stories are bad, right? But like, it's tough, dude. It's tough. And when you come through that, it's tough. And personally, like, I don't know why I'm going to tell everybody this, but I've had my colon removed. Like I've had a full colectomy. I know Brian knows this. It's not a good surgery. I will tell you that right now. Like if you think you're tough, go get your colon taken out. You'll see how tough you are real quick. And I know that for what type of cancer he had, they were probably sectioning him out. And I've been through it twice because I had what's called I had a full colectomy and then a reconstruction. So, and it's not as bad the second time because you've got all that scar tissue, but like it's not great. It's not something you want to do. So just the amount of pain this guy was going through on a daily basis, and they can give you everything. They can give you whatever you think you're gonna have for a drug. I mean, it doesn't help. So like for a guy like that to ignore all the media talking the way they were about him and to just keep that image up, like me and my wife talked about tonight, like she's like, man, my son again he wants to go, he's already talking about Halloween going as Black Panther like prior to this. And my wife's like, is that appropriate that he goes? And it's like, well, hell yeah, it's appropriate that he go. It's a superhero, and because he was there, like, I mean, what do you say to a 5-year-old? Do you say like, yeah, this guy, Black Panther passed away, like that's tough, man. It's tough. I mean, it just really is. But one of those learning moments. So
it is, and that's I think that's another important thing. That's why we kind of wanted to have some people on tonight to just talk, is because this is kind of a great statement right here, and it gets to a point where you're human. You're human. Like, this is a human thing, and it's okay to mourn. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to laugh. It's also okay to cry. I think one of the important things about the YouTube community and about what's going on, where we're all in different states, we're all very far away from each other, but we're able to be more human right now and talk about this rather than just typing something on a keyboard, right? And when you do type something on a keyboard, you say things like this, like what Joshua Vincent said. Let's make it important. Let's make it worth something. I don't know, maybe this can help change something. Who knows? Maybe his legacy is greater than we could even think.
Somebody else made a comment back there, and I think we gotta, even kind of what Nico was saying, like, I think we gotta think every once in a while. Like, I mean, we know each other personally. Like, I know Nico personally. Me and Brian, me and Nico got some funny stories about the triad and everything like that. But like, sure. But like a lot of the time, it's a help. Like I know it's so easy to just go out there and be I'm not trying to give the PSA, but it's really easy to be a jerk all the time. It really is, man. We can all be jerks, but sometimes you don't know what's going on. Like, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going to go on tomorrow. You don't know what's going on the next day. You don't know how it goes. I know McClay knows, like, we shot a couple of our first Star Wars shows, and so do the boys, Mike and them. Like, I came out of a surgery, and they're like, you don't look good. You don't look good. And I was like, yeah, but, we're all here, so let's do it, man. Like, you just don't know what's going on in everybody's life all the time is all I'm going to say. And obviously a lot of people didn't know what's going on with his, and, just keep it cool. It's a lot funner when you're keeping it cool, right? So, like, just keep it cool out there, guys.
Bill said it before. Take the chance, that every chance you can, to tell your loved ones that you love them, and I think a lot of us being kind of holed up in our places during all the COVID stuff, we've really realized the appreciation that we have for the people that we love around us. And today, this weekend might be the time to just call up some of those people you haven't told in a while and tell them you love them. My mom went through breast cancer while I was in college, and she kept it from me until I was done with my finals, because she didn't want me to worry and, stop what I was doing and come home and deal with it. I'm like, Mom, I think, I wanted to be there for you. She's like, no, I'm not going to, there's no reason for that. You're going to have to deal with the next few months anyway. And so, I think a lot of people try to hold it back from their families, knowing how rough it's going to be on them. Like Bill said, it's tough for the patient, but it's just as tough, if not tougher, for the families. And I think it takes everybody to come together to give that support to each other and to the patient, whomever it is. In this case, my mom. And it was, luckily she made it through. She's been in remission for many years now, and all is well on that side. But she's known many friends and family that haven't. So I think we all have. And then, on top of that, just kind of layer on Chadwick passing away. And I'm thinking to myself, he was 43 years old, and in essentially the picture of health, as far as I could tell, from the screen. And here I am, I'm 43. and I'm not living such a clean life like he probably was. Nothing crazy, but enough where I maybe should. It's brought this into reality a little bit. Maybe I should live a little better, knowing that I'm the same age as him, and just But that all said, his impact on movie going. I mean, I don't think it's calculatable. I don't know that there's a number you can put on it. I don't think there's a level you can put on it. I teach in a multicultural school, and the absolute just love for that movie from these kids who really haven't seen very many extremely powerful and black characters with that kind of strength. To see that on screen and to be able to rally around that, I think that legacy is going to last a really long time. And he did such an impeccable job at it. I don't know what else to say other than that. We're all I think we're all lucky and honored to have that movie be in existence for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah, let's just talk about that movie real quickly. By the way, that fight scene in the casino, that just how they shot that, and how that's a game changer. And you see it now, like that portion of how they did that slow fast, like it kind of took that Matrix version to a different level, but like how they shot that cinematically, right? And what he had to do in it, and kind of just the whole thing. Like it wasn't just all him. Obviously, I know that, but like you had to have actors that were willing to do some stuff in there, and that is like game, like even adult wise. Like I know it's like okay, I get it. It's impactful for all the other reasons that it was impactful, but just some of the scenes that were shot in there, and some of the stuff that he did and happened in that movie, like he was part of that, and like that you can't take that away. And like when you like that scene right there with the I walked out when everybody asked me what I thought about the movie the next day, and 3 days later in the LCS because it came out on like a Sunday, right? And then Wednesday we're on the LCS because that's, me, I like to be at the LCS. So at the LCS they said, and I couldn't stop talking about that scene, and they're like, "Well, hey, no, we're not done talking. But did you see the bullet go by?" And like that's what they should have done in Matrix. Like they're like, "Oh, you're knocking." No, I'm not knocking Matrix. I'm just telling you, look how far this went. And have you seen a scene like that? And of course, you get like Hater Dave or Hater whoever is in your LCS because there's always Hater guy that comes in, is always angry about something and trying to just throw a little hate on stuff. And you're just like, get out of here, Hater. Like, let's go at this and talk about it. But like that scene, I think lasted. I think that was like a 3-hour conversation. I don't think I left for 3 hours because we were just talking about that movie for so long. And then I came back and then somebody else would walk and pop in. You know what I mean? And that one went on for a while. And I'm not saying that some of the the Avenger stuff didn't, like the Snap, of course, didn't. But like for one movie with really what they were doing in that movie, it was crazy. And then of course people came in and they're like, "Oh, did you see Jackie?" And of course we all saw we saw Jackie because that was like you thought he was him. Like, I don't think people know I think people, when you think about Jackie Robinson, I don't think people like actually think about the black and white, TV Jack. I think they think him. Like, that's who they think Jackie Robinson is.
That's
like,
the face they see.
Yeah, that's what, when you close your eyes, that's who you see as Jackie Robinson. And I think that's the part you can't take away from it is like, yeah, dude, it's sad. And even in the comic book world where like, we all probably made money off of Black Panther. I hope you all did, or you got to collect what you wanted off of it. Like, but like the truth of the matter is like that guy did a lot of good work, and not just in that, but in other movies. And that Black Panther movie is like, dude, like I was ready for another one. Yeah. How many of those, like, not to knock some of the other Marvel movies, but really Ant-Man and Wasp, like you're really looking forward to that. Like, it was good.
As opposed to a second Black Panther.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying like it was good. But if you give me the choice between Ant-Man and Wasp and Black Panther, I would. But then again, you got to remember, 80s and 90s, we grew up with Van Damme's and the Schwarzeneggers and the action movies, and that's what Black Panther really did in title. They actually took the action movie and made it good again. Like it wasn't. And I know action movies always have a little bit of corniness to it, and there was some corny lines in Black Panther, but it was supposed it's an action movie, bro. It brought back the action movie.
It was perfectly balanced. It just really was, and that's the reason why it did so well. I mean, there's not many movies that did better than Black Panther. If you look at domestic box office, I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to movies like that. It's really the only movie that's not like an ensemble piece. I mean, you got Endgame, which hits everybody. You got Star Wars, Episode 7, which again it's Star Wars and it's an ensemble piece. You got Avatar, which is basically Pocahontas remade, but
hold on though. Let's go back.
But and you got Black Panther. Like there's only 4 movies that made $700 million domestically, and that's one of them.
And by the way, let's go back to Endgame because one of those great scenes in it is when it's
Exactly.
him again. It's him again. I mean,
Black Panther did better than Infinity War, and they came out the same year.
And was the first comic book movie to ever be nominated for Best Picture, period.
And the soundtrack was pretty dope too. Hey, for all you hip hop heads, that soundtrack was dope, dude. I mean,
it is dope.
Absolutely,
they came through with it.
So we've talked for a while about this. Let's talk about what we have set up for today. Where can people go, Nico?
Yeah, so it's as easy as going to comicbookinvest.com. Melissa Flanagan is an anesthesiologist, a physician in Florida, and she was kind enough to create a GoFundMe that will donate money directly to the American Cancer Society. It is not a situation where you've got to worry about a middleman. Comic Book Invest doesn't touch any of the money. Dr. Flanagan doesn't touch any of the money. Mel, as I call her. It just goes straight to them. And, we're hoping that people will make an effort to donate just a little bit of what they may spend on Wednesday.
What's the website, Nico?
The link is on our website. There's literally a dedicated page that will take you straight from comicbookinvest.com to the GoFundMe, and you can pay through PayPal.
Yeah, I was making sure that was live early on when it looked like I was half paying attention. I was making sure that page was live on the site, so it was up, and it's up right now. So if you go to the homepage, it should be the first post there.
Should we share that? Can we?
Yeah, I'm going to
screen share that.
I'm going to screen share it right now for everybody. Perfect. And again, here we go.
George, give the second half of that PSA she gave you too.
Which is that at the end of the day, people at younger and younger ages are suffering from colon cancer. That research for cause and origin,
cancer, right?
It couldn't be more important right now. There are some who theorize this has to do with GMOs in food, but really we'd like to leave it up to the American Cancer Society and the experts there to try to get to the bottom of what the heck's going on and try to figure out some effective treatment modalities so that people won't suffer.
Get earlier screenings.
Yeah, go get screening. It's not that bad, dude. Come on.
Right.
Like, seriously.
Yeah, for real.
It really is not that bad. Believe me.
Well,
Believe me, it's really not that bad.
You guys are talking about that right now. I'm literally setting up my first screening tomorrow, so I'll be calling in to do that. So as we talk about that, I would suggest more people do the same like they're saying, and I'll let you know how it goes, everybody. I'll be the first guinea pig. So
yeah, I can tell you this. It's a little uncomfortable, but you know what's more uncomfortable is when you're throwing up out of one end and bleeding out of the other. Way more uncomfortable. Way more uncomfortable. And that doesn't stop after like 5 minutes. That keeps going for a while. So, I like what he said. Drop an F-bomb on that one. So go out and get your screenings. I mean, just be a man or be a chick. Do whatever you got to be. Straighten up there. Be a superhero. Go get your screenings. It's not that bad, dude. Really not that bad.
Yep. I think another thing that we definitely kind of hit on, and that's very important, and people keep talking about how he waited 4 years. And, another thing that, and Mike did kind of hit on it, is that we forget that not only was his legacy was more than just personal. I mean, the movies he was making, you could tell that he didn't. I don't know if this is true. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it feels like he didn't want to say anything because he didn't want people to think about Black Panther about that movie and relate it to him being sick. I think that movie and that character are so powerful, and it sounds hardcore, but when you think about it, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing, and if that is the case, and the movies that he did make meant much more than we really know. Shout out to everybody in the chat tonight. Thank you for everybody joining us again. Nico mentioned that CGC and Matt Nelson were kind enough to reschedule for a couple weeks down the road because of the bad news that we got yesterday. Yesterday, I believe now, that Chadwick Boseman had passed away after a 4-year fight with colorectal cancer. And make sure you guys figure out a way to tell your loved ones you love them, and if you can, help out and give some to the American Cancer Society. We have a GoFundMe page set up. If you don't have a place there you can help out, here's one where you can. Like Nico said, all the money will go directly to the American Cancer Society. So, all right. Anybody else got anything they want to talk about?
Yeah. So one of the things I think is I don't know how long it's going to take before we appreciate the impact of this, and people are already acutely aware. Black Panther's impact on our culture. He, as a comic book character, is without question the premier African-American superhero. But as a film hero, was the first of his kind. Nobody with capes is a person of color. And that story of, two children, one with a loving father and one with a resentment about a father who abandoned him, right? That's how at least the story was told. That's emotionally how it was told. That's going to ring true for a long time.
Yeah, a lot of.
I wonder what the impact of that is going to be 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Well,
I think that maybe one of the biggest problems that we might, and not to get political or get into craziness, but there's something to be said about the family unit, and not just immediate family. I think that's, and we talk about this all the time, we beat it to death, and that's community in general. Whether it's this community here, the comic book YouTube community, the comic book community, your neighborhood, whatever community is very important. And when you have a tight-knit community, I think that that community also kind of raises its own. And I think for whatever reason, that's kind of left in the last couple generations. Maybe it'll change. Maybe it is changing. It's always something to talk about. It's always something to bring up. And they did it very well in that movie. I think it's not only is it the first movie, and we've got another couple of people showing up in the chat in the show tonight. We're going to get you on here shortly. I'm going to get you on here in a second, Matt. Basically, I think that they did it so well in that movie. And one of the things about that movie that blew me away is that character in the end, that Killmonger character in that end, you cared for that character. You cared for that character in such a way that there was such the outcry that that character, they didn't save that character. And that was a big moment in movies too, just from the fans' perspective, and saying, hey, no, we want a redemption for that character. We like that character. We want to see. So that was important too. That was kind of cool. That was very interesting. Guys, I'm going to bring in Matt Roybal from Global Comic Safari. He's nice enough to join us. I'm just going to hang out in the background and kind of moderate and let you guys do your thing. Thank you for everybody tonight. I'll see you guys probably later on in the show, but we're going to bring in Matt, and I'm going to take a step aside. Hey, Matt, thanks for joining us tonight, man.
What's up, guys?
All right.
Hey, Matt.
What's up, Matt?
Sorry to be a little late, but my wife had me cooking dinner, so I had to get that done.
No worries, bud.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit, as our resident global comic expert, of the impact of Black Panther in comics across the globe?
Oh, shit. I mean, let's be honest that in Africa, you got to see so many little kids just looking up. American pop culture is everywhere. I mean, it was seeping into the most remote parts of the world when we weren't even really aware of it. So I think everyone right now, all over the world, is just in shock. I guess why this is such a personal thing for me too is my mother-in-law is fighting cancer right now, and I brought a picture of her and my wife, and this was at my wife's brother's wedding, and so not only this being part of the comic universe, but it's a tragedy there, but it was just like boom, right over the head, boom. This is this tragedy that's going on right now with my family. And watching my mother-in-law, she's stage 4. We have all the hope that we're going to beat it. This is the second time she had breast cancer. And watching my wife go through this and her family go through this. And then with COVID, we can't see her. So this kind of thing happening just out of the blue like that and not being able to register it. There's something like that when you have a family member who's dying of cancer or fighting cancer and you can't touch them. It's tragic. It's just tragic all the way around.
It's brutal.
So for me, it just was like I just kind of got hit over the head with it, and I've just been trying to process it, and I don't know, man. It's crazy. And Black Panther, from a strictly foreign perspective book, his first appearance definitely made its way out. Not very many people did the Kirby Black Panther short little run there. We see it, a little bit. We see it in Greece. We see it in a few other countries. A few other countries kind of reprinted that story there. The famous jungle action wasn't done very many places either. I think there's a French-Canadian edition of that. And I have the Mexican map right up there. As from a strictly comic perspective, there wasn't a whole lot of editions, not until relatively recently. But those editions in particular, especially I know with a lot of different collectors, hunt that book out. And how do we not see Chadwick Boseman on those covers? Because that's the thing. I mean, he was the Black Panther. I'm sorry, I missed some of the earlier conversation. So I'm sure you guys talked about just as an actor how he encompassed that character. And a lot of his other characters. I think he played Thurgood Marshall, Jackie Robinson. I mean, he encompassed them. He was an amazing actor.
Yeah, he was James Brown.
And this is the thing I think that's so free. I mean, do we know if there were any leaks or anything that he was dealing with health issues? Is that known at all? Do you guys know?
Nico kind of said it earlier. There was some things that people were speculating on his weight loss, but they weren't saying.
They weren't saying it nicely.
They weren't saying it
nicely.
So I don't think there was a true leak of anything. It was probably all just speculation and people just assuming the worst.
So I mean, for him and his family to kind of suffer in silence and keep that secret had to have been huge. Because I mean, think of the media spotlight when the movie was coming out, and if he was dealing with this around the time of the movie and since, I mean, that's just kind of amazing. Like that the paparazzi didn't catch something,
Yeah.
So it kind of just
Winter Soldier.
Yeah, it kind of just hit me when you were saying that. Like, I think part of the point of that is because we all kind of talked about like the people who had cancer and the people in our lives who had cancer, and before it's like, I think we just it's one of those things where you just got to talk about it, but not do like I feel bad, because anybody who's been in an IV ward before where they do the treatment, when you get the chairs. Anybody who knows about cancer, the chemo chairs. If you've ever been in a chemo chair before, or if you've ever been in another chair in there for another infusion, the infusion centers, you know what it's like in there, man. And the last thing you ever want to do, the last thing you ever want to do is be in one of those chairs. The last thing you ever want to do is be the person that's in one of those chairs longer than everybody else. And it's not because of that. It's because of the look you get, and even the people who you look at that seem sicker than you are give you the pity look. And I think that's kind of something, maybe if you're going to take anything away from this, and probably why he was doing it, is like, it's not about like, man, he had cancer. I feel bad for him. It's that look. A lot of us, even if we try not to have it, and this is probably why Mike would, we can all talk about because our family members have had it here, or personally, Bill. Like that look is tough, dude. If you have to swallow the look when somebody has pity for you, of nothing under your control, like, hey, look, if you did something wrong or whatever, but like a lot of these diseases, especially with the cancers, it's nothing. It just is. So like that pity look is something that will kill you worse than metaphorically worse than the disease. So I think that's something that has to be talked about. I mean, when you were just saying that clicked in my head, like that's why my dad wasn't. That's why Mike. That's why your your mother-in-law, because they don't say it publicly because they don't want that look, because you're gonna get the look. You get the look. If you've ever been in one of those infusion chairs before, I mean, if somebody wants to talk about it, they can. But like, if you've been in an infusion chair before and you know what that look is, and that look is just gut wrenching, man. It is gut wrenching when you get the look, and I mean, it's tough, dude. So I think maybe if we can kind of just talk about, like, not talk about now, we obviously have, but like tell people, like, that's what it is. Like, yeah, say, man, hey, dude, I feel for you. What do you need? Do you need anything? You don't need anything. Don't over bother it, and like let it go on, and like let him go. And I think people will be more open about saying like, hey, yeah, man, this is what I'm going through. Like, people need to do it. If you've ever been in the hospital situation for major issues, like there's tons of people that just want to get back to their everyday life, and they don't want to talk because talking about it leads to the pity look. And I think that's maybe the one point, and it just kind of clicked when you were talking about that, Matt, is like, maybe that's what it was. Maybe he just didn't want the pity look. Maybe he just
And for Chadwick too, I mean, I think, like we said before, I think he understood the importance of this movie at the time it was coming out, not dissimilar from the importance of the book when it came out. We were talking with Sanford Green, Pete and I, on 3 Comic Monty a couple of weeks ago, and I pulled this book as my choice in the first appearance, FF52, and I said, think about the fact that that book was released in July of 1966, right smack in the middle of the civil rights movement. I mean, that's some balls, man, for Kirby and Lee to put that out at that point is really important. And to have black kids see that on a newsstand had to be mind-blowing. And then to have this movie come when it came, when all of this racial stuff is brewing again in this country, Chadwick had to know how important that was, and probably didn't want to I don't know, spoil, taint, whatever word you want to use. He wanted to make sure that message stayed strong. And when the thing came out, that it was going to have the full impact. And he didn't want to, I don't know, have this overlay of pity for him and all that kind of thing. And I don't know. I think
that makes sense.
I think that's probably it. I mean, I don't know. And it's probably part of the family thing too. Like Mark was saying, you don't want that pity look. You want, hey, you've done something strong. You've done something important. This is what I want to be remembered for as my legacy. Don't remember me for battling colon cancer. Remember me for playing this role, or Jackie Robinson, or any of the other roles that I played. And that's the way I want to be remembered, as a strong, as a strong man, strong actor, strong black actor. And I applaud him.
I gotta say, does anybody not have like that? I know, whatever, we're gonna rank it. Does anybody not have that as one of the top 5 Marvel movies? I know, because that's what we do at the LCS. Everybody ranks it up, and that's kind of where some of those arguments came down. Kind of what I brought up about Ant-Man and Wasp earlier is like, dude, you have it there. It's like better than. Okay, so
one of the best paced Marvel movies.
But I've always had it as the best individual movie out of them. Like, I mean, come on. Some of those Iron Man movies, you can just put those right at the bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, those were rough. And I mean, I know the first one, because it was new, I always argued that it got a little bit of pump because it was new. But like, think about when that came out. There had already been a track record of Marvel movies that had come out already. Like, you had to do something good and different. And this is where the 3-hour argument in the LCS comes up, because at that time there had already been a track record of movies coming out. And of course, you're ranking them against the Avenger movies too. And then of course somebody brings up the X whatevers, which are still, they should just redo the cartoon and shoot it as live action and we'll all be happy, right? But when you go through it, and I think as the year progressed, because every year a new Marvel movie's coming up, even the people who were fighting that movie when it came out, right? The next year it was, and I hate to, me guys, I'm always against the list, but like, this is one that I don't have a problem with. It's like, it kept growing in lists. You can rank movies in a series in lists. And that was one where people, after other movies would come out in that series, be like, go back and watch it, because every year a new movie came out, you watched the whole. Maybe not everybody did, but a lot of us dorks did. We watched the whole Marvel run on it, right? Right, and that was one where you would go in after the new movie. Am I the only one that did this, or are you guys? Are we getting hot? Or am I ridiculous?
No, I'm with you.
Yeah,
pretty much movies.
yeah.
Don't worry,
No,
you're
but
not
like
alone.
you do this, and then you go into the LCS like the Wednesday afterwards, or you hang out with your buddies that are into this stuff, and the first thing you do is re-rank the movies every single time. Yeah, we do it with Star Wars. We do it all the time with the Star Wars ones. We do it all the time with everything, and we would do it with the Marvel ones. And it was just funny that every time a new movie would come out, even like the Hater Daves and all those guys, like that movie would raise up. You know what I mean? Even the people that said that wasn't so good, yeah, give it a couple years, because that movie would raise up. And by the time you have, by the time Endgame comes out and you have the scene where, that scene was chilling, right? So like, it wasn't a question anymore if Black Panther was in the top 5, right? It was by that time the stable of the top 5, right? It was there.
Yeah.
You just were. I know people with the heat or whatever they want to talk about, and we always stay out of it, obviously, on our shows and stuff about all politics or whatever everybody's opinion is or whatever. We don't care about any of that. So we always stay out of that. But I know people do rank it because of situations like that, but you can always look over the time. Like, it's a 5-year time. After 5 years, what does it look like then? And it's pretty funny that movie, even the people that were hating on it when it first came out, that's in their top 5 automatically. And it says something towards his acting, and it says something towards his impact on society in itself. It really does when you look back at it. And I think that's how you start ranking those, right? Like, Jackie was great when he was Jackie, but like when he played Black Panther, then everybody brought up Jackie, and then people started really watching that. That's when he became everybody's image of Jackie Robinson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not everybody's... Go ahead.
Sorry about that, Marco. I apologize. I wanted to say for everybody out there watching, we're kind of just bringing people in and out. So if there's anybody out there that wants to join us, if you got a nice little setup, and a mic and stuff, and you want to join us, let us know. We're going to try and get a couple more people on if we can. We'll bring people in and out just to kind of talk about it a little bit. And if any of you guys got to bail, no worries. Just let us know, and it's not a big deal. We appreciate you guys joining us. I just want to mention one more time that there is a GoFundMe set up. If you don't have a place to go give money, there is a GoFundMe set up for American Cancer Society, where everything goes straight to the American Cancer Society. It is over there on CBSI, comicbookinvest.com. So if you guys go on over to comicbookinvest.com, you will find it over there. But here is the GoFundMe right now. So I'll also post it in the chat and down below, so you guys can find it throughout the episode. All right. Sorry about that.
I've got to run, boys. It's really been great talking to you, and I'm sorry we had to meet this way under these circumstances. But be well, everyone. Tell your loved ones you love them, and thanks for letting me have a minute or two tonight. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Brian.
Later, Mike.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, real quick before I jump off, Marco had mentioned that pity look when you're sitting down in the chair. And I think you get the pity look more from the people that are working on the outside. I think all of us that are sitting in the chairs are looking at each other with pity, because we know we're pumping $35,000 worth of the worst shit into your veins that you can ever imagine. Yeah. And we're paying to get it done to us. So I think we all look at each other with that same type of pity, which kind of goes back to that GoFundMe page. I know the American Cancer Society, I think, is more about trying to help us solve and cure it. But, anybody that can help somebody out while they're going through this stuff, it really is financially stressful. My goodness. And I think, was it Marco or somebody was talking about, no, it was Brian said his brother really didn't have the insurance set up in place. And, the bills add up so quick. Even if you're paying 10 or 20%, when you're thinking $35,000 per bag and you're going in for, 3-4 bags a week, and then you're doing that for 6 months. Yeah.
The copay's got to be just crazy.
That's what I mean. 10-20% copay. You're still paying that amount, right? It's
and then what's your appointments look like on top of that, right? Because you have to have.
And then you're going back in every 4 months for another CAT scan or the MRI or the, whatever they need to do to keep looking and making sure you're monitoring. your bills.
Yeah, because they're pulling your blood for monitoring all the time. And
right, you're going in for that mega scan, to look in to see if you have any more hot spots. Wait, we need to take out some more lymph nodes. You know what I mean? Like the cost just keeps you've gone through some of that, Marco. You know what that's like. The money just.
Yeah, I mean luckily, yes. Yeah.
And I will say my brother went into that knowing straight off the bat, he said, listen, there's no way. We told my brother, we said, he was very worried about that at first. But one of the things that I found, with the research and dealing with the things that I've dealt with after my brother's sickness and trying to help other people is that mental stress is just as bad as physical stress for you. And I think one of the important things is to take that mental stress away also. Pain causes mental stress. Mental stress causes pain. They're hand in hand. And any mental stress that you can take away. And we told my brother straight off the bat, we said, don't worry about it, man. Either we'll figure it out or you go bankrupt. Money isn't everything. What's important is letting people that you love them, like we're saying here. And showing it and helping each other and everything else will get figured out. And I think that's something very important for a lot of people to realize, that they're so worried about what's going to happen next. It'll get figured out. It will get figured out.
Brian, I agree with that, but and to Bill's point, and I think you can test this, and it's tough though, because and Bill brought up that point, like obviously I didn't want to put him on the spot about the pity look and all, but like the Bill thing, how it happens is rough, because you got, what is it, 35 minutes? Is that what you're in the chair for? I don't know how long you were in the chair for.
It depends on which one. You got, there's different.
So I was doing a different treatment. I was doing a anti-TNF. So I was in chairs for an hour and a half, but he was in the infusion center, and you see him come in for 35 minutes. And like, when you think about that, it's quiet, right? There's not a lot of people allowed in there. And that's the times when I would assume it's the toughest, Bill. I mean, I assume that like, that's when you're thinking about the bag going 35. That's just $35,000 being pumped into me. They're going to send that first notice of because they're going to send you the whole bill. They don't play around and just tell you what your percentage is. They send you the whole bill, say you owe it. Then they send you the next bill that's like, oh, well, it hasn't been paid yet because the insurance company doesn't pay on the first time. Then they send you another bill. And then and you're worried about, because every time it's going in. And the only reason I know it is, it's a two-part, because my dad obviously was going through it. And then the infusions I was taking was $15,000 a piece. So I know how that goes. Like, it's tough because you're like, man, is this one going to pass through, or am I going to have to call the insurance company and spend 2.5 hours on the phone with them? What am I going to do? I obviously have to take a day off of work for myself, but for Bill I don't know what your work situation was, but it's tough, man. And it's tough, and you're by yourself. So everything that Brian was saying is right, and keep that in mind. But at the same time, sometimes they don't want to. I would assume, Bill, you didn't want to talk about it because you just spent 35 minutes thinking about it in that room. Like, man, dude, like, it's I mean,
you couldn't even work. I mean, I didn't realize until I got maybe 4 months later, I went to use an iPad that I had while I was in the hospital, and my font was literally like on 90. You know what I mean? Because your eyes sight kind of goes. You just can't focus clearly. You can't work when you have chemo fog in the brain. You can't really think and even remember what you just did.
No.
But I think the part I disliked the most was every time they rang that fucking bell.
Yes. Yeah.
I wanted to go stick that bell up somebody, and then when they wanted me to ring it, I wanted to hit them with the hammer.
Yeah. Well,
I'm trying to ring this bell. You know what I mean? Like,
I got some funny stories for you that you probably can relate to. One of the things that I remember about my brother is that my brother was the biggest asshole to the nurses. So bad that I would feel, because listen, I'm going to say this first of all. Here's another important thing. For all of you nurses out there and doctors out there, especially those nurses, the nurses are there to kind of offset that. I have a feeling about doctors. Doctors deal with so much that they kind of their emotion just goes away. And I think the nurses are there to kind of be that emotion for that patient that patient needs. And nurses deal with so much They deal with so many people being assholes to them, and they're so nice and they're so loving to people that they don't know. They're angels. They're absolute angels. And my brother was such a jerk. And every time I would go in there, my brother would go crazy because all he wanted to do was get sleep. He could never get sleep because my brother didn't get chemo the normal way. My brother's chemo was, he would go into the Mayo Clinic for 7 days, and he would spend that whole 7 days hooked up. And then they would send him home for 4. He would go back for 6, and he did that for 52 weeks. And all he wanted to do was sleep. And they're checking. And when you're on that much chemo and that much poison or whatever you want to call it, your body starts shutting down, like Bill was saying. And they're constantly checking your vitals and constantly checking you. And all he wanted to do was sleep. And he was such an asshole. But I remember every time he was an asshole, the nurse, I would go outside with the nurse. I'd say, sorry, thank you. And every single one of them was, no problem. We understand. No problem. We understand. It was absolutely amazing. And I can't say enough for the people in the medical industry that do help the way that they do.
Yeah, good nurses. There's nothing better. There's nothing better. Bill, I know you can attest this. There's nothing better than good nurse. Like, there really is. You sometimes will, especially if you do extended stays in hospital, you will pray for the good nurse's shift to start. And they know, they're smart. Look, if you think you're tricking a nurse, you're not. If you're trying to get your shot or whatever, they know what the timing is. They'll help you out with, the good nurses are good. Bill, somebody had a question in the comments though. I don't know if you want to touch on this, what the bell was. I know what it is. You probably can explain it a little bit.
Bell,
maybe
when you finish your round, or you finish your treatment, you're considered, you get to go ring the bell on your last dose. I don't know. You'd have to sit there listening to somebody ring a bell, and they'd go out. And when I was there, I actually got to see one person come back in and start another round. So the hardest part for me is when I was doing this with my cancer was, I'd already gone back in for my 3 times. You know what I mean? Like, it was like your 3rd time. They tell you beat it. You're going back in. It's your next time. And it's just believing you're gonna live and beat it. It's a hard thing. Anybody I really knew with cancer didn't make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the bells. While you're getting treatment, there's a bell in the hallway most times, and if you quote unquote beat it at that point, you ring the bell and go out. But while you're ringing that bell, there's a lot of guys and females still getting treatment, still in the depths of it. So it's kind of tough mentally. Like, you feel happy for
I
the
think
person,
sometimes maybe it should make somebody feel good, but for me, I was just kind of, I don't know.
I don't think it's just you, but
that's being human. That's being human.
It's like, don't rub it in. You get to leave. I'm still stuck here. You get to leave.
Yeah.
No, it makes perfect fucking sense, man.
And there is, I want to give a quick shout out to Dollar Bin. Shout out to Dollar Bin. We love you, brother. We're going to take that money and put it right into the American Cancer Society. We're going to actually double that money. So we're going to send $40 to the American Cancer Society. So thank you for that. We appreciate that. One of the things that along those lines is my brother felt that exact same way when he was in. But I will say this, when he got out and he started losing that brain fog and that Bill was talking about, that chemo fog, he felt he had a really bad survivor's guilt. He had gotten really close to a young man who was in the Mayo with him that had the same thing, very similar thing, and he didn't make it, and he had a family. And I remember having a conversation with my brother. My brother doesn't have kids, and he said to me, people don't talk about what it's like living after cancer, and that's an important thing. Sometimes living after cancer sometimes you come back to life, and it's nowhere like the life that you remember for some people. And I remember him saying to me, it took many years for him to get to a point where that depression wasn't there and that survivor's guilt wasn't there. And I remember him saying to me one time that if he could change places with that young man that passed who had a family, he would do it in a second. And so that's another thing to remember out there for people that have been affected by cancer, or loved ones affected by cancer, is sometimes life isn't always the same. And we need to remember that. And to let people know that there's things that you should be doing, because that depression is a killer, especially that chemo depression.
JJ Maxwell, I saw your comment. You are 100% right with the not sleeping in the hospital. But once again, I will refer back to Brian. And if you've got good nurses, you can rotate your drugs and get you like 3 to 4 hours of sleep. And that's what you live for in the hospital.
Yes, it is.
That's awesome.
Bill, this is what I'll say. Like this, and it just touched me there too. What you were saying, like it wasn't your first time, and like that's how scary. You don't have to talk about it, man. I hate to ask you this, but like, if we can open up about it, like how scary is it, like on a daily basis after your first time you came through? Yeah, the bell sucked, and you probably had to ring the bell, and then you're thinking, like, how many times? Every time you had a pain, like, is it back? Every time you got blurry vision, every time you did anything, man, was it like? I mean, it has to be
petrifying. Every time you go in for your next scan, what are they going to find? You know, and I've got 3 kids, wife,
yeah,
and you're constantly thinking, is this going to be the one where they tell me it's spread too far? You know, because they kind of gave me the path of what it should do. It's going to go here, here, here. Eventually, I think lung, livers. You know what I mean? And so you just keep waiting for that. You keep waiting to hear that. And I think that's why really think. Oh, go ahead, Marco. Go ahead, buddy.
But I think that's why the bell's bad. Like, I don't want to knock the bell and like people that use it for a positive thing. But I think Bill, and keep going. But I think this is where like kind of when we were saying why Chadwick didn't really talk about, like, this is it. It's
makes sense.
Right.
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, it'd be so tough to do what I think anyway. I mean, this is just coming from me, because we were lucky. We had an entire all the kids went to school. The school kids they went with, their families would bring food, so my wife didn't have to cook. They would send, you know, it was so many people helping out, which is why I said, you know, it's tough on us, but it was just as rough on everybody that was around me, you know. I forget what I was going to say now.
Well, one of the things
Sorry,
to go back on is, again, to talk about that is so heartbreaking, is that we didn't know 4 years. And it you know, when I first heard about it, part of me kind of, and I'll be honest, part of me kind of got angry, because I thought to myself, well, I wonder who he did tell, because the first thing I thought about was the people around him. And Matt, you know, kind of, you're going through this right now, where that is so true that it's just as bad for the people around you, but those people around you also hold you up. And when people find out, like Bill said, the amount of support and love that comes in helps. I don't care what anybody says, whether you're religious or whatever it is, whether you just want to send prayers or positive thoughts or positive feelings, that shit works. And let them know that you're sending it, whether it's a text message or stopping by to say hi at home or in the hospital or wherever. Call them, do whatever. Just let them know, hey, I love you. I see what's going on. Positive thoughts your way. Whatever I can do to help. It helps. It helps immensely.
Community. It's bringing you food, calling, checking on you. You know, we've been it's been wonderful, because my wife's family, they've been sending my mother-in-law loves candies, and she's in the nursing home, and so she can't leave. So she just loves sucking on candy. So we're all sending her so much candy, and she's not eating it. She's losing weight, but she's like, I'm loving all the candy. But yeah, all the positive vibes that you can send, it's like, we just got to do it. We got to do it. And with community, you can do that. And with him, I hope that his family had a very nice kind of wellspring of positive energy from the people he did tell.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to hear the stories coming out, because one of the things I thought is, did Marvel know? I wonder who in Marvel knew and how they handled it, because if they handled it that same way and they knew, respect to Marvel, respect to the movie theater for upholding his wishes and not letting that get out. Because could you imagine if that got out and how bad that would have hurt his chance to try and beat this thing?
Yeah.
Well, with a lot of those, especially movie stars that are headlining, you have to get insurance, and a lot of those guys have to go in for physicals. So it'd be pretty hard for them not to know about it.
Cover Lover Comics has a really great topical question. He says, do you believe Love and Thunder will address this subject matter with Jane Foster? I don't know. That's a very interesting question. I mean, they would have to. I'm sure that film is that close to being done. I don't know where that is in the process, but it would be something interesting. We all know that they're going to put something in there. They have to. If they don't, there's something wrong. There's got to be something, like they did with Stan Lee and this and that. But it would be very interesting to see if they talked about that subject matter somehow, because we know that it was in the comics, it was in the storyline. And that, it's funny, at the time, I didn't like that storyline. I didn't like that storyline at all. I wasn't a fan of how they brought it in. And it was just probably because it was so fresh on my mind. Did you read that storyline, Bill?
No.
Okay. So basically, for those of you guys that don't know, Jane Foster ended up getting sick, and she got the power, the Mjolnir, to try and help her beat the cancer and this and that. And it made her. She became Thor. And at the time, I just didn't like the storyline. I just felt it just didn't make sense to me. But it'll be very interesting now if they do bring it up in the movie to hit on something. Who knows?
Yeah, they will, though. I feel like that they're trying to pack so much into that already that's probably something they didn't plan on. And to try to shoehorn it in now, I think this late in the game with script, I don't know if that's something they're going to do. But
yeah.
You never know. Guys, I'm going to have to get thank you for having me on. Love to all of you guys. Positive vibes to all of you guys. Let's just, try to stay positive and donate. I'm going to go check out the GoFundMe. I'm going to donate, and let's try to make something happen.
Yep.
And help some people, and love you guys. So I'll catch you guys later.
Yeah, you too, Matt.
All right. Talk to you, Matt. Right. Later, buddy. And you guys, we're gonna keep this kind of short tonight. We just wanted to come on and talk about it a little bit. But again, American Cancer Society, you guys, there is a GoFundMe that we set up that's just in case. There's a lot of people out there that say, hey, I don't know where to give money, and we just wanted to kind of do a little bit of that we could to help people if they didn't know where they could help out. There's many ways to help out. Many ways to help out there. Just being nice to each other is one. Don't be an asshole. Don't be an asshole. Treat each other with love and kindness. And if you can give back, do it in any way you can. Here's one way that we wanted to tell you guys that you can give back. This is a GoFundMe that has been set up that gives money straight to the American Cancer Society to try and help beat any form of cancer that they can, because it is a horrible disease that should. We've done so much as a human race to get through so many obstacles that this is an obstacle that needs to be figured out in any way we can. And one thing that I do want to talk about before we leave, and you guys know that I try to bring this up wherever I can. For those of you guys who are out there and that are in pain, there are ways to help that pain and do it in a way that could be very beneficial, and that is with cannabis and medical marijuana. And I get that it's tough for some people to talk about, but when it affects somebody that you love in a positive way, and it takes pain away from somebody that is hurting that you love and helps them, it will change your mind. And I would just go talk to people out there and tell them, do a little research, talk to the people that it has helped. And I think it could help a lot of people out there.
And Brian, just real quick before you on that subject, that chemo fog that I had, the cannabis actually kind of negated it. Yes. It didn't just help my pain. It didn't just, I actually felt clear with that. I mean, you could tell that there was still something wrong, but it was more of it was just there. I was able to function. I came back in the first time I used it. I'd been going 9 days of chemo. I had stopped. I wouldn't do it. My father is the one who actually said, go try that. If you look at yourself on the opioids they give you, your kids aren't going to notice anything worse. Trust me. I came back in, and my wife just looked at me and she said, what did you do? And I said, well, I went, and she goes, you look better. Like,
yes.
The pain in just this, you looked, and I sat down and I had dinner with my kids. I was able to just sit there with them and eat, and it was great. and I think it was probably part of the uplifting. Like you were talking about the depression. Marco talked about you're sitting there and you're watching a 4 and 5 year old kid coming in getting the same treatment you're getting, and you want to talk about like the remorse, the guilt, you're watching things that are just, you don't want to ever see that anybody going through that, and it was very uplifting, positive energy wise with the cannabis. I mean,
yes,
there's no other way to look at it. You can't say that it didn't help me feel better.
Yeah,
at the time.
And I got goosebumps when you said what you said, because that is the exact same story that my brother has. My brother was not using the cannabis. He was on the chemo for months. The chemo had ravaged his body. He was not drinking or eating. I don't think it was to a point where he wouldn't even take his pain medication because he didn't want to take any water because he would get so violently sick. And my mom called me one day and said, Brian, I need you to get over here now. Your brother doesn't look good. I don't know what to do. He won't take anything. And so we would move off, switch off on who took care of him. And so I went and got him. And I called my buddy who had contacted me, and I said, listen, I need something. And he said, and so he got me some RSO. My brother was a smoker at the time. He had quit smoking because obviously he's going through chemo, and he didn't want to be smoking. And all he kept saying to me weeks before is, God, I just wish I had a cigarette. So I went to him and I said, Chris, I have a pill for you to take. Luckily, it was in a pill form because he couldn't do anything else. And he said, no, I'm not doing it. He wouldn't even look at me. He looked terrible. He looked death warm over it. He looked like he was half dead. I said, Chris, if you take this pill, I will go buy you a pack of cigarettes and you could smoke all of them right here. And I convinced him to take the pill. Now, he hadn't eaten in weeks. I got him to take the pill of Rick Simpson oil. Josh Vincent, RSO stands for Rick Simpson oil. Look it up. It is game-changing. And by the time I got back from picking up the pack of cigarettes, he was sitting in the other room, first time he had gotten out of bed in weeks, and eating mushed up chicken enchiladas. And the color came back within an hour, 1 hour.
By the way, you can get that Rick Simpson oil in CBD form.
Yes, you can. And for those of you that don't know, that
very beneficial. Yeah.
It's very beneficial. And that's the last thing that I will say about this is that there is CBD and full spectrum has the THC, which is the psychoactive part that gets you high. CBD will not have that. The benefits of CBD and cannabis, I will always talk about them because of how they affected my life. And that being said, I want to say to everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. Bill, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. And everybody for telling your story. Thank you so much. American Cancer Society, you guys, if you guys don't have a place you can give, go to comicbookinvest.com. You'll find this link. And, we just want to say thank you for being a part of this community, everyone. And we love you all. And rest in powerful peace to Chadwick Boseman. And thank you for everything he did. And thank you, guys. Much love. We'll see you next time, guys. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.